everyone to This Week in Svelte, episode 134. We're getting up there, by the way. Welcome. And today, finally, we have a showcase back. I love blubbering with you about the changelog, but like whenever I can also bring some guests to talk about their project, I'm just happier. Like I get to learn something and I get to like chat with someone and not just blubber at a camera. Not because you're not like luckily you also comment on the chat, so like I can chat with someone. Okay, let's dive right into it so that we can get to the interesting bit after the changelog. And we start with Svelte 5.53.8. Fix add HTML no longer duplicates content inside content editable elements. This is actually something like it's a bug that I tried to fix and I failed to fix because so this is like it's a bit of an edge case to be fair, and I want to show you what actually is the edge case. But basically, if you have a content editable, so let's start with the basic. I can do div content editable div, and I can do hi. And once you do stuff like this, you can see that when I click, I can write here and I can delete and I can stuff like that. So basically, content editable is something that turns your div or whatever element actually into so let me switch back to 0.7 before the fix. So when you have something like this, it basically turns your div in almost like an input. So like you can see that you get the outline. You even get like, this is my Grammarly. It's not really a Grammarly. I can't remember the name of the extension, but you get a bunch of like it's basically treated as an input. You can write, and you can even do stuff like Command B to get bold and Command I to get this. So like you can actually change the HTML. Now the problem is that if you do stuff like this, let's say I do bind value, and let's say that I have this value here, like this. No, sorry, it's bind inner HTML, I think. Yeah. So if I do bind inner HTML, this will make sure that if I print inner HTML, I will get the HTML. So if I do this, it's B word. And if I do this, and if I do like space, and I remove, and I do, sorry, if I do space, and I remove the B, and then I do hey, and then I do this, and I do this, you can see that this is the HTML and stuff like that. Now, the problem comes from the fact that if you did add HTML, inner HTML, this I don't think you even need bind inner HTML. So like this is just, well, maybe yes, maybe you need, I don't know, I can't remember. So the problem is that I think, okay, this is the thing. So if I do this, I don't need bind. I can just do value like this. And this is basically how I can do stuff like b word/b, and then it will actually work. So let's do hello world like this. So I'm using add HTML to do stuff like this. Now, what happens is that if I do, I don't know, input bind value like this, I can obviously change these words. But now watch what happens when I change the HTML here. So like, let's say that I change this, and then I change this thing here. Now, the whole HTML, like you can see here, it's duplicated. And the reason for this is because when I change this, Svelte is not aware that there is a B tag there. And so when you change this, Svelte will change that part, but it can't remove the original, like the HTML that you changed. So like if I remove this, for example, and I do this, and then I change something, hellos, you can see that like the part that I changed is not actually being removed from the content editable. And this is now fixed in 0.8. So now, even if I move here and I make hello, the like bold, once I change this will go back to not be bold because now it's being synced with the actual content. So it's a bit of an edge case, to be fair, but when I tried to look into this, I got like, I didn't know how to approach this because that's a modification of the DOM that is outside of Svelte realm. And so either you should add a mutation observer, I don't know how it fixed it, but it is fixed now and I like it. Dot access inert block effect. So this was basically like when a block effect is an effect that basically takes care of the reactivity of the if block, the each block, the key block, and stuff like that. And when one of these blocks is marked as inert, it means that it's not participating in the reactivity graph anymore. And before, it could have been accessed anyway, and now it is not anymore. Handle async, like obviously it was a bug, right? It's not. So handle async updates within pending boundary. So if there is an async update within a pending boundary in a Svelte boundary, it was not handled. So like it didn't, I can't remember if it didn't work or if it was immediately, when an async value is updated inside the boundary while the pending snippet is shown, we previously didn't notice that update and instead showed an outdated value once it's resolved. Okay. So basically, if you changed some value which triggered async updates, when a pending boundary was shown, the value was an old value. So like we basically skipped the update. Perf, avoid retraversing the effect tree after like the labeled assignment. I can't remember if this is, oh no, it's actually like an actual perf. So if an assignment happened in a $sign statement, any affected effects are rescheduled while the traversal is ongoing. But this is wasteful. It results in the flush effect loop running another time, even though the affected effects are guaranteed to be visited later in the traversal, unless the thing being updated is a store. Okay, so yeah, it's a small change, but it's nice. Chore, simplify scheduling logic. You can't understand how much how can I say, how much I envy Rich for being able to write these big refactor PRs lightheartedly. Like the fact that he can write a simplification of the scheduling logic, which is like 12 file changed, that touches a lot of the core functionality of Svelte, and actually open the PR for it. Obviously, Rich is Rich. Like he knows Svelte ins and out, and even like more. But like refactor like this stresses me out so much. And I mean, this did cause a couple of bugs, to be fair. But like the fact that it can just say, there's this code that I don't like how it looks like. I want to make it simple, and it just goes in and fix it. That's something that I always struggle with. Like the moment I have something that works, touching something that works for me is such a pain. Like I can debug as long as you, like, if you give me like 10 bugs to debug, I am the happiest person in the world. But if you give me one refactor, I will hate you, because I hate refactoring. I hate touching code that works. Okay, so fix Bender bind these cleanup timing. So this was something, I think this was opened by Simon. Yeah, so there was an extra queue microtask, which was a workaround, but this caused some timing issue. And this actually fixed, like, it was an alternative to this. Like, there were like 2 or 3 PR open to fix this bug, which was then, oh, probably we should close this PR. But yeah, basically, like, it's, this is basically like, it was several PR that got opened, everyone trying to tackle this thing, and Simon actually had a very good idea of how to fix it, and it did it. Fix reprocess batch if new root effect were scheduled. Let me see this. In some cases, a new branch might create effect, which via reading, writing, reschedule an effect, causing this root to become populated again. In this case, we need to reprocess the batch. Most of the time, will just result in a cleanup of the dirtied branches, since other work is already handled via running effect. It's still crucial, else the reactive graph becomes frozen since no new root effects are scheduled. So this is like, this is one of the most, like, it's the more like complex part of the reactivity system, which is basically all the scheduling of the routes. So whenever you make some changes, you are actually scheduling a route, and then from the route we explore the whole reactivity graph, and we say, okay, is this effect dirty, is this effect dirty, is this effect dirty, and we go over all the whole branches. And what happened is that there was a change for which basically what could happen is that during the traversal, like if a new effect was created during the run, basically the root effect, like there was no more route to be scheduled, and so once you have no route scheduled, it's basically completely frozen. Like you couldn't create a new thing. That's very complex. So like I am blubbering basically. So like don't quote my words on this thing. But yeah, it's very complex. The whole thing of batches and like all the work that Simon and Rich and Elliot are doing for async stuff, it's very, very complex. Fix, remove untracked circular dependency. So this was just a simple, I think it's one of my smallest PR. I've actually opened this PR, and if you see, there is literally 2 files, which is the change set, and then I just changed this import because this was creating a circular dependency and basically invoking a warning during vit build, which, by the way, just to say, like, I don't know if this shows also the comments, but if I open this, I can't open this. It's fine. But basically, like I've seen people that they say like they pinned a Svelte version because this build was throwing a warning, and I get it. Like I don't like warning either, but like, would you pin Svelte just because Vit throws a warning? Maybe like obviously you might have a system in place that if there is a warning, it fails the build. So like I get it, but I would never do that. Like it's a warning. I will investigate if the warning is actually valid, and if it is, I will just like it's a warning. Fix, recover from errors that leave a corrupted effect tree. I think this was also something from Rich. Errors that occur during a traversal can leave dirty effect inside the affected tree, but with clean parents. This means that, yeah, they're doing like, so I have to say we are, and by we, I mean Simon, Rich, and Elliot mostly, they are closing up on the async work. So like the async work is getting better by the day. Obviously, like it's a very complex stuff, so there are a lot of bugs, but like it's getting like edge casier and edge casier every time. So probably lazily re-evaluate right hand expression, I guess it's called. So basically this is, let me show you. So RHS JavaScript should be right hand I can't remember what the acronym means, but basically RHS mean like the right hand side. That's it. Right hand side of an assignment. So basically, when you do like equal something, that's the right hand side. This is the left hand side, and basically we are doing, so there's a warning that you can get, because if you do stuff like this, let me show you. So if I do this, let's name, I can technically do something like console.log name is equal to Paulo, right? And if I do this, you can see that I'm getting Paulo. So this is valid JavaScript. When you assign something to a variable, you will also return that value. So if you do stuff like this, this expression became Paulo. So it's basically, yeah, this expression value is Paulo. Now, this becomes a bit more annoying when you are using an object. And specifically, I think when you're doing a mutation of an object, so like name is equal to value. If I reassign name.name is equal to Paulo, or maybe name is equal to name Paulo, here it is. So no, okay, this is the console log. I can't remember how it was triggered, but basically the point is, when you are assigning something, Svelte will convert that something into a proxy, and I can't remember how it was trigged. I guess maybe name.name. I should check how it is triggered. But basically there is a specific situation, maybe, or maybe it was this one. Yeah, okay, so yeah, this is one of those. So basically, if you are doing stuff like this, the right hand side is evaluated yeah, I think basically like the right hand side, this, like you can see this assign nullish is basically like within this assign nullish, we are checking if this expression is a proxy, because if it is a proxy, it will resolve to the wrong value just because just because sorry, I was reading a comment, a very unconstructive comment, which Lolok, I invite you to not do such snarly comments. We respect each other in this environment, so please don't do such comments anymore. I was saying there is a situation basically inside here. We check if this is a proxy, because if this is a proxy, then the value might resolve to a previous value. It's a bit annoying, it's a bit like convoluted, but the problem is that it was not evaluating lazily. So you can see that if I reopen this, you can see that now, if I switch to dev mode, you can see that now this is a function, right? And what happened is that before, so if I switch back to 0.7, for example, this was immediately read inside here, which led to like a too early invocation of this value. Fix resolve boundary incorrect batch when iterating. Okay, so like again, like the boundary, like a Svelte boundary, and it was resolved in the wrong batch during iteration. Once again, like this is the mind-blowing stuff that they are doing, but are you describing, so there is a message which is, are you describing the case where you assign a stale variable that comes from props when initializing a component? No, that's a different, okay, let's actually, let me figure out assignment value stale. Svelte, because I want to explain here it is. So this explain it a little better. So assignment to property location will evaluate to the right hand side, not the value of property following the assignment. This may result in unexpected behavior. So if you have a situation like this where you have object state array null and you do object array dash dash is equal to this push, the array being pushed to when the button is first clicked is this one on the right hand side of the assignment, but the resulting value of object.array is an empty state proxy. As a result, the pushed value will be discarded. So basically what happens is that if you do stuff like this, which it is valid JavaScript, so like you can basically say, okay, object.array is like if this is null, create an array and assign it to object.array and then push to it, right? Now the problem is that when you click the button in this case, this array, like JavaScript, will resolve this to this array. So we resolve this expression to this array. However, we then create a proxy for it. So if we copy this into the playground, you can see that basically, like, the problem is we are assigning something to the array property, And so this expression, this whole expression here, will resolve to this value. But since we need to create a proxy for your array, once the assignment takes place, you are not, like, object.array will not be this array, but it will be a proxy with that array. And so it's basically it's something that we cannot fix, because JavaScript will, like, inevitably return this array, and we need to wrap this array with a proxy to be able to track the reactivity inside object.array. And so you will push to this array, but when the object.array is assigned, it will be wrapped in a proxy, which means that it's a different object, which will not be pushed to. So it's a bit of a mess. And unfortunately, we cannot fix it. Like, there's no way we can fix this to both persist the proxy, so like to have deep reactivity in the array, and like keep this value here. And so like we don't have a way to do this, and so like at least we throw these assignment values stale so that you can see and say, hey, that's a problem, and fix it. Resolve boundary, so sure, rebase batches after process, not during. You can see like this is, I think it's a theme of the last year at least, because like since we started, and by we mostly I mean Rich and Simon and then Elliot, working on the async stuff, there is a lot of like async work is already very, very complex when you introduce the fact that like you need to time travel, and you need to like be able to show old values while new ones are being resolved and stuff like that. It's really very much a matter of a micro task. So like you need to move stuff like right after or right before or right during. So like it is very complex stuff, and they are doing a great job. And this was yesterday, so we actually can go to SvelteKit, releases, and we have feed, allow error boundaries to catch error on the server. Oh, I actually didn't know this. So like we shipped the counterpart of this in Svelte a few days ago, which basically allow Svelte Svelte boundaries to catch errors on the server. And now we are actually using that inside SvelteKit. So now if you have an error boundary, it will catch error in SvelteKit, and it will display the plus page.error. Upgrade the value. I think this is for like fix in the value. Fix, don't wait for remote functions that are not awaited in the template. This is something that I think it was shown like from the beginning, and like just now we are at a stable enough point to remote function to actually care about it. But basically I think one of the problem was that if you had a remote function, if you access the value of a remote function, even if it was not awaited in the template, it was still globally awaited during, I don't know if it's during pre-rendering or during server-side rendering, because we needed to know that the remote function was there, and now Simon probably find a way around. Allow resolve to accept path name with a search string, add, or a hash. This is something very like interesting finally, because one of the most SvelteLab.dev, one of the most linked errors that I ever got was the not using resolve problem. So basically, like, I don't know, like, I don't think we have ESLint on SvelteLab, but basically if you do href is equal to something, ESLint will yell at you here because you are not using resolve. Now resolve is a very interesting function, because if you do import from @svelte.js/kit/path, no, it's actually $up/paths, if I'm not mistaken, resolve So resolve, basically it's a typed function. Let's refresh. It's a typed function, so like if I do resolve like this should be a type error. Yeah, it should be like this. Sorry. This should be a type error. I think I can do npm run check to get the type error. Oh, I'm missing. So npm run. I don't have Svelte check. npm npx Svelte check. Let me see. Okay, it's not getting the error here, but basically the point is this resolve function is actually typed so that you only have your roots here. I wonder if I can show you. Yeah, I think I can show it to you. So if I do cd stuff as we create, zoom in, resolve, test, let's get minimal, TypeScript, printer ESLint, it's fine, pm. And cd resolve test. Let's open VS Code. Now, I will drop some frames, I think, unfortunately. Basically, if I do this, roots page like this, to href/cool, go to cool page. Now you see, like I have this unexpected link without resolve, right? And to fix it, I can go resolve from $up/pods, and I can go this, and I can say resolve cooled. Now this is still a type error because I don't have a root that's called cooled. So if I do this, you can see that now I can only go to slash. And if I create a root that's called cool plus page.svelte, now if I switch back to here, you can see that I need to run the dev server, obviously, to get the type generation working, npm dev. Now you can see that once I go here, now I have slash and cooled. One of the problems before was that if you had to go to a root with a pound or with a hash or with search params, you could not do it, and now you can. Cool, and it's still working. So that's nice. And you should still get errors if you go to an unexpected route. So this actually fixed the problem with the search params. So now you can actually keep the lint rule going. Remove deprecation warnings for config-kit files option when validating the Svelte config file. This was something that was previously deprecated and now it is not anymore. Handles form target attribute in remote form redirect. Form target attribute in remote form redirects. Okay. We have a new minor, which is page and layout params with matchers are now type narrowed in $up types, leading to better type safety when working with params in up types, upstate, and hooks. So basically, if you have a matcher that can actually narrow something down, so like let's say that you are expecting a number, you can have a matcher that actually type narrow something. So like if you declare that will return a number, you will actually get that parameter narrowed down to a type, so to a number, which is very, very nice. I would say, so like we have a few new releases of the MCP, display similar result at the end. I think we have a few releases of OpenCode. OpenCode is not getting picked up, Antoine, if you are seeing this for some reason. We did have 2 new releases of this, but it's fine. There's a new release for enhanced image, support for Vite plugins Svelte 7. We have a new release of ESLint plugin Svelte. I'm kind of rushing because I want to give space to Axel. We have 2 new releases of SV. Don't dictate rune mode for node modules. Fix Sverdl demo shake animation. And bump the vtest to that. Move OpenCode config to .opencode folder. Remove spread operator from ESLint, default to rune mode. So there was a moment before this release where it was defaulting to rune mode for new projects, which is fine because you should probably use rune mode. But it then had a problem with node modules, so we removed node modules. Now there is another problem, I think, because we didn't properly do it. So we need to better detect if it's inside node modules. We have a new release of Svelte check, use promise response for async kit handler return types, and devalue ESWrap, Svelte to TSX. Okay, I think that's it. That's fine. Let's actually switch to something a bit more interesting, which is this library. So let me switch to the guests, and I present you Axel, which brought Convex-SvelteKit. Convex, if you don't know about it, it's like a specific database, and he basically wrote an adapter to write better a better integration with SvelteKit, right? And now I'm gonna leave the scene so that Axel has the spotlight and he can talk about his project.
Thank you, Paolo, for the changelog and everything. Is my screen and mic okay?
Yes, should be.
Okay, cool. I think I'll start very quickly by talking about Convex for those who don't know. And Convex, up until recently, the subtitle of Convex was the missing backend for React, which is pretty fun. And they changed recently, but Convex is in between a database and a backend. It does a little bit of both. And what it is, it's basically a database that's persisted, and you write some backend code in front of it in JavaScript that gets converted to Rust, and has one of the biggest benefits to be real time. And they provide already a Svelte integration, but if you're like me and you like SvelteKit more than just Svelte alone, I felt a bit left out. And the way they say that you should use Convex is that you import the library, you install everything, and then at the top layout, you set up Convex. And then within a page, you do something that I feel like I didn't do a lot, is that in the script tag, you create a use query, then you call the function on the backend, that function returns something, and then you use it. The really good part about Convex is that what you get using their library is a state for Svelte. That means that when the data changes online, the state is replicated everywhere, and that's really convenient. You get all the real-time cool stuff. But that syntax here was not exactly, I learned the word idiomatic while working on this project. And I wanted something that looked a bit more like SvelteKit. And one of the benefits of that is that you then gain server-side rendering, which you don't really have if you use only the Convex way of doing things. There is a way to do it in Convex, which would be that your server asks for the data, then your server returns to your page load that data, and then in the front end, you need to do a mix of the initial data, then connect to the socket with this use query thing that you have there, and do a custom state that would have an initial load and then the new load. So my goal with Convex-SvelteKit was just to make that a lot simpler and look like modern SvelteKit code. if I show you, so there is a way to do it almost the way they do it in Convex, which would be to call a query from inside your page.svelte. Sorry for that. And then here, for example, if we do a very simple to-do list, which is here, and I go there. So this is a simple to-do list, and then you can check something on your to-do list or you can remove it. Very classic. So you could do it kind of the official Convex way, load them in the front, but you can also do it in a way that will look more familiar to SvelteKit user, is that you could use a load function and you still keep the way of calling the endpoints the same way you would do with Convex initially. So you give them the API task get, which is exactly what you would do if you read Convex documentation. Just you wrap it in a Convex load that's meant to work with the SvelteKit load functions. And when you do that, the server asks for Convex for these tasks for your to-do list. It sends it to the client, and then on the client, you get them. So if you're familiar with SvelteKit, this should look very, very familiar. So from data, you have data.tasks, and then in here, you can do your data.task filtering. And what is using behind it is the transport layer of SvelteKit. So when SvelteKit detects that you're passing an instance of a Convex load or Convex query, it will only take the initial data, send it to the front end, and then the front end does the magic, it's not really magic, but of recreating a state, filling it with the initial data, reconnecting to the WebSocket, getting the new state that will update live if something happens. So then you get this experience here where you can say something there, and this is like on localhost 5147, but here is a hosted version, and I think I could probably put them side by side. I can't because I'm not great at moving my windows, but here I have my client demo, and these are hosted in 2 different places, and you can still do all that. And by doing it server side, there is something that you cannot do, as far as I know, with pure Convex Svelte, the official way, is that this page here, if I reload it, you get 0 blinking because it was hydrated in the first place. And this page here, if you reload it, then you get the, Convex is actually reconnecting when you get the page, and you have multiple ways. So someone in Discord asked me if you could use like regular client loading because they were in Asia and Convex doesn't officially have servers other than Europe and the US. So they kind of like this way. And this query version here is using a Convex query, which is a wrap and is used in the exact same way as the new remote function, so the query remote function. And the last part of that little library is that you have Convex form, which behave exactly like the SvelteKit form remote function. That means that this is the form to add a new task. And if you've tried this spread syntax, you will probably like it quite a lot. So you can spread the create task form, and then you can grab the field from it, and then you can use the as to get the correct input type there. And about the form, yeah, because the first time I used Convex, I was like, oh, they use validators on their function. So here is how it works on the Convex side. So a function to get the task, for example, is a very simple function that is called a query on their side. It doesn't take any argument in that case, and then you return something you can do on the database. And then if you want to create something, you give a validator. So it's not really Zod, it's their own custom validator, but you give a validator, and then the function validates firsthand, and then it do the operation for you. And they have a way to do validation with Zod as well, using a little extra tool from them. And I was like, oh, so Convex has a way to validate from Zod, and SvelteKit forms have a way to validate from Zod, and gives you this super nice developer experience around that. So that's why I created that little library. And there was a comment in YouTube earlier about someone saying, okay, why would you do that when you can vibe code it? I'm not an expert at maintaining open source software, but this is something I needed and I wanted for my day job at Cobble. And so I created that. And the library initially exists for Cobble. And I made a wrap that's like presentable on a little website with like really minimal to-do list example, because we're doing way more than just to-do lists at my work. But I was like, okay, maybe there is a niche of people who love SvelteKit and are curious about Convex and are also not super happy about the fact that Convex is not made for SvelteKit. So it's not the perfect match yet, and I want to bring that a step closer. The reason why I made this open source is because I would love if Convex could do that in that way. That would feel idiomatic for SvelteKit users in the native library. And I think Mikael, I think from Convex, saw that and is already trying to do something around that, which is amazing. So yeah, there's a total valid argument that this website that you've seen here and that presents the little examples here is vibe coded. No shame in that. It's just like if someone wants to check how it works, these are super simple examples. And yeah, one final thing I want to add is that I'm a big fan of Better Auth, and that I actually discovered Convex because of Better Auth initially. And there is an integrated example of how to use Better Auth with that, so you can get your locals.user at the hook level that would represent your user from the database and everything. That also does seeding from JWT. So if you're nerding a bit about it, you don't have to wait an extra 1, 2, even 3 seconds sometime on Convex to get your user data, because there is some checks happening. So it's an option there. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for not writing weird stuff in this live demo when we were presenting. And that's it for me. I will look if there are questions really for this.
Yeah, that was a great small presentation, and I think it's absolutely valid. It's an absolutely valid, nice little library. Not every library needs to be like a fully fledged, 200 things. I am absolutely the first library that I wrote were actually libraries that I don't know. I want to do this very small thing, and I think everybody else would do the same. So why not write a library? I mean, we have a library for is even. So obviously, this is not an is even library. I think it's nice to have a nice wrapper for an API that can also give. I am a huge nerd for progressive enhancement. Now I don't know, I legit don't know. So I'm asking you, can the mutation be on the server? So for example, the form factory that you created, can you use that so that if you don't have JavaScript enabled, it will still trigger the mutation?
Yes, totally. This is one of the concepts I love about SvelteKit, is that you could do everything without JavaScript. It works the same way. If you don't need the form exactly, you can still, it's the same in SvelteKit. You could still call the form function from the server somewhere else and it would work. I think we reached the same thing. Basically, one of the biggest differences is that it's live data. If you do a query in Svelte and someone else changes the database, then you don't get live updates.
Yeah.
But other than that, the feeling in the way you use it for me is exactly the same. And I kind of already forgot. I think I published this library like 2-3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And in my day-to-day, it really feels like doing regular
Yeah.
SvelteKit things.
And again, like there are some like small little things like setting up the transport, doing the server side rendering part and all of that. And I think it's a good thing. And again, I like the fact that it's using server side rendering because it's one of the prerogatives to do progressive enhancement, which I'm a huge fan of. So like I want to build something that can be used before JavaScript is available, and this totally allow you to do that. And so yeah, I'm happy that now this exists.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. Axel, sorry. I knew I would mess it up.
Everyone misses that one up.
Thank you, Axel, to presenting. And thank you, everybody, for showing up and joining us. Thank you for following along for the changelog. And thank you for sticking up with us. I hope you learned something. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye-bye.